Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our series of reflections on the international political economy.
I'm here editing, and I'll jump in when I see fit.
Today's topic is going to be on theories of development, and trust me, she a big one. When thinking about development, there's something you need to ask yourself. Who came up with the term economic development or economic improvement? And then, what does it mean to be developed? And it's an important question because, in my humble view, development may very well look differently from state to state. But trying to apply a one-size-fits-all model on what you need to achieve to be considered development is a recipe for disaster. The Scottish Enlightenment in the 18th century, you got your boy Adam Smith espousing neoliberal economic theories on development in his book The Wealth of Nations. He saw it as a very linear process. And of course he's going to see it that way because, again, he is from a country that at that point in time had colonies that essentially extracted resources from other places that would have benefited his country. So let me delve into it a bit. He essentially states that for development to occur, you need a country's greatest resource, a nation's greatest resource is land. Therefore, agriculture is the first stage you go through in development. From agriculture, from which you get your surplus, you move to industry because the surplus is now going to want to be sold to people. You have small cottage industries coming out of that. The purchasing power of the people will create a bit more of a demand from these small-scale industries. You get this explosion of commerce, creating a large demand for your goods, thereby creating more demand for your goods, more money coming in, you reinvest that money, and that money can be used to improve the standards of living of your citizenry. At least that's the idea. Further to that, Adam Smith also was of the opinion that the state should not intervene in any of this. He was like, let the economy be guided by the invisible hand. The problem with that, folks, is that if the state does not manage the institutions needed for economic activity, you can end up creating or being involved in a financial crisis. Examples include the 2008 financial crisis, the Asian financial crisis of 1997 to 1998, the Third World Debt crisis. So many financial crises happened because the state was not necessarily guiding or had a strong influence on what was happening in the economic activity of those nations. I also don't know if you can tell, but I'm from the Caribbean.
Let me tell you about island girl. Island girl, me a Dominican girl, bilingual.
As is my friend Dylan. We can't look at using theories coming out of what is considered from academics to be the global north to talk about development. So you have your guy Dylan, you want to take this one? Please.
Plain and simple, the reason that it's so difficult to judge the development of the Caribbean using just from that global north lens, it is completely different. There are so many social factors that need to be taken into consideration, so much historical context, colonialism, slavery, a lot of the issues that pose threats to the Caribbean. A good example would be something like climate change or the immense amount of natural disasters that plague the Caribbean as well as Latin America. Think about it this way: when all of these things culminate, the global north has a head start, or it's like we have a handicap of some sort. Like someone completely getting a head start in a race and being so far in front of you and then asking you, why didn't you win? Why didn't you beat me? Why couldn't you finish? There were advantages set, unfair ones, and even ones where the global north economically drained other areas of the world. And before judging everybody with the same brush and measuring development as only economic growth, we have to take a moment, maybe breathe in like I just did, go like, and then think about the political economy. That's why this exists. Take into consideration those external factors and then assess development, not just by economic development, but the other things that can be offered as well.
We have another one of our own intellectuals. There's Lloyd Best. Lloyd Best disagreed strongly with Sir Arthur Lewis. He was of the view that you need to acknowledge the dependency syndrome going on in the Caribbean due to our colonialist history. It is important to know your past in order to know where you are going. That applies politically, that applies historically, and it applies economically, folks. For Lloyd Best, industrialization by invitation was a really bad idea. Reason being that you can't expect that the multinational corporation coming back in, who was from a former imperial nation or former colonizing nation, would be actually willing to help that new state compete with it and develop with it on the same level, on equal footing. It just cannot work. In this system that we live in, realism is king. States are naturally selfish. They are very competitive. And even economics can be seen as a zero-sum game, in the sense that, when I say zero-sum, I mean one win, one lose. It's not equal. It never will be. Lloyd Best was of the view that this could never work. If you want to develop, he says that you need to look at what is going on within your own society and develop the ideas and critical thoughts from there. And that is how you're going to move forward, but not by depending on diversifying your formerly agrarian society by using foreign direct investment from your former colonizer. Bad, bad, bad. Take on the entire affair of development. We live in a highly connected world. You saw the effects of how COVID can affect development and set you back. Take, for example, Jamaica. They were doing so well. They got back on track. And then, boom, COVID set them back a little bit. Well, not a bit, a little bit, quite a bit. Same with Barbados. It has even affected Trinidad and Tobago. So the world that we live in is highly interconnected. And to say that you are not going to accept foreign direct investment from an outside nation to help grow your economy and help you get back on track is foolhardy. What needs to happen, though, is that intellectual thought on development needs to come from within and not from without. And that is the only way that every unique thing to our societies is adequately considered when you think about how a society or how a nation progresses. And that way, the citizenry get to enjoy the benefits of what it means to be development. If you determine what development means to you and not what it means to an outside nation, what development is for an outside nation, you are in control of your own destiny. You are in control of your economic power. Dylan, you want to jump in here and say anything about this? Because I'm sure you have lots to say. Yes. Let me know what you think about development and what framework you would use. Would you think of it from a Caribbean perspective, if you are from the Caribbean, or if you are familiar with more global theories, how would you look at development for your nation?